is my life. Everyone's heard of, 20 in 2020, 21 in 2021, 22 in 2022. You get the gist. New one is 23 books in 2023. That would be too simple in my brain. Instead, hello, Shelby. She's being very needy today. She wants attention. I'm going to do 23 series in 2023. Some of these series are rereads for me that I just want to reread. Others of them have been on my shelves for 5+ years and I haven't touched them. So my goal is going to be to actually read the series. So let's get started. Preface, I have all the books listed on my phone here so that I don't forget anything I want to say. Shelby, I don't have anything for you. But to begin with, I'm going to read an ebook series that I have that I bought last year. I can't remember if it was Black Friday or if it was like an end of the year sale, but either way, Barnes & Noble had a sale on the Throne of Glass series for $5.99 for the entire series, like one book file. So I bought that. So I have the ebooks, and I will be starting that in February because there was a read-along happening. I am excited. I've had this book honestly for a while, and I was planning on starting it this year, and then I never got to it because why would I read books that I own? Following the SJM one with Throne of Glass, the second series I want to read this year is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I've been told that I need to read this series before I read Crescent City. And I read the first Crescent City book last year, and I was told don't read the second one until you read this series. So we're going to go back and we're going to read this series so that I'm in the loop. I am excited because I've heard this is a retelling. I don't read synopsis before. I just pick up based on title, to be completely honest. Title, and if people say that book is good, is how I determine books I'm going to read. I don't read synopsis. That'd be easy. So I've been told this one's a good one. So we're going to read this one next. So I'll probably start this one. I'm thinking in January I'll probably start this. But we'll see. 3 is Crescent City. So I'm going to reread House of Earth and Blood, and then I do own House of Sky and Breath. I bought that as a pre-order, so we will continue the series, but these books are chunky because I know I'm a fantasy reader. I know that, and like, why I thought 23 series and 23 was a good idea, because I'm a fantasy reader, and like, I'm going to be honest, most of these series on this list are fantasy, and they're chunky, but we're going to read this one after A Court of Thorns and Roses. Or we're doing a throwback to my childhood, teenage, whatever you want to call it. We're going to read Eragon. So I did reread Eragon in 2022 here, but I continued the series. So the goal was going to be to reread the entire series. Again, another chunky book because I'm insane. We're going to read this. We're going to continue because I love dragons. I think they're fun to read about. They're like my favorite mythical creature. I don't know why, but I really enjoy dragons. I'll get into my Cassandra Clare universe read. So I have read The Mortal Instruments prior, and I decided this year I was going to reread it in 2022, and then I was going to buddy read the entire Mortal Instruments series with people. And then book 1 happened, and then nobody wanted to set up book 2 because nobody wanted to respond if they even finished book 1. Like, I don't know where everyone went. Like, they'd be other places in the Discord server, but, like, they just would ignore my messages on this. So, I'm gonna read it myself, and I'm gonna read the entire series. Because I do like this series. So, we're gonna reread this because I like that it involves demons and vampires and werewolves and everything else. I'm going to continue with Clockwork Angel in the Internal Devices series. I read this one in 2021. But I found a timeline online where it goes through like the whole Shadowhunter universe and tells you which order to read the books in. So I'm going to be doing that with this series. 7 is going to be The Red Scrolls of Magic, also by Cassandra Clare. I have not read this one. I found this book at Walmart and I bought this one and the sequel to it. So all I know is it's about Magnus, and he's one of my favorite characters in the Mortal Instruments. So I'm excited to see where this one goes. And we have Lady Midnight for the Dark Artifices series, also by Cassandra Clare. I know this one picks up after the Mortal Instruments leaves off, and I have never read this series. Like, I've never read past the Mortal Instruments, and then I read the Infernal Devices, and that was it. That's all I've read out of this universe. So I am excited to continue this because I know it picks up right after The Moral Instruments leaves off. Round out my Cassandra Clare reads, we're going to read Chain of Gold and this series. So The Last Hour is book 1. I know the book 3 comes out at the end of January here, so I am going to buy book 3 when it comes out to add to this, so I will also be reading that in 2023 as well. My Cassandra Clare shelf all rounded out that I'm going to read everything on that. I also am a big fan of Rick Riordan. Rick Riordan is the author who made me fall in love with reading, so we are going to read all of his books, excluding the one, except for maybe Daughter of the Deep, because I'm still planning on getting to that yet in 2022 here. But we will start with my annual reread of The Lightning Thief and the Percy Jackson series. So I reread this series every year because this is the series that did make me fall in love with reading. I did just finish The Last Olympian literally this month here in December, but I'm going to pick up with this one relatively early in the year. I usually read this one pretty early every year for a reread, but I decided to buddy read it this past year, and the original plan was like, we're going to take 2 weeks per book, and we're going to read this, and we're going to read Heroes of Olympus, and then it took people 2 months to read each book, which is like fine, it's just, that's too slow for me on this series, that it literally dragged out Percy Jackson for an entire year, and I'm not about it, so I'm going to reread this one pretty early in the year, and then we'll continue with Heroes of Olympus. So I've only ever read the Heroes of Olympus series twice before, so this will be a third time. I reread Percy Jackson every year. I've read it 11 times, I think, at this point, so this will only be a second reread for me. And we'll see how it goes. I don't remember much of Heroes of Olympus, to be completely honest, but I am excited to see what I do remember and what I don't. 12 is The Trials of Apollo. I am looking forward to this. This one is The Hidden Oracle. I have been told this is very funny, so I've had this book since it released. Well, I bought it shortly after it released, and I bought an ex-library copy like after a year or so. I also have the ebook copy, but then I bought the physical copies because I do love Rick Riordan. So I am excited to see where this goes. I know Nico is more in this series, which Nico is one of my favorite characters that has ever come out of the Percy Jackson universe. So I am excited to see where this one goes. And to round out my Rick Riordan reading in that shelf of him, I have the Magnus Chase series. So I've read Sword of Summer here when it first came out as an ebook, and then I did buy the physical copies later, and I bought the rest of the series. I'm usually just a big fan of Greek mythology, and I know this one is Norse mythology, and I have read the Canaan Chronicles, which is Rick Riordan's Egyptian mythology series, and I didn't enjoy that one as much. I really, really do like Greek mythology. So I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about Norse mythology, because I know it involves Thor and Loki and stuff like that, but we're going to see where this one goes, because I don't remember anything from this series at all from when I read it. I don't know what year this book came out anymore. I don't know if it says it in my cover at all. Where's the publication page? 2015. So yeah, I read this in 2015 when it came out, and I don't remember anything from it since then. With my Rick Riordan series reads. But I am going to go back into Greek mythology with A Touch of Darkness, which is the Hades and Persephone series by Scarlett St. Clair. I have read this book twice in 2022. I really, really loved it. And I do have the rest of the series, so I am going to reread this one for a third time. And then I'm going to continue the series. And then I also have the companion series, which is from Hades' point of view. So I will also be reading that. I need to look if any more books are coming out this year, because if any of the books in either series are coming out this year, I will buy them and add them to my list to read yet this year. 16 is going to be Illuminae. So I've had this book for many years. It's just been sitting on my shelf. Actually, on the entire series, it's just been sitting on my shelf. In a Discord server, a few of us have decided we are going to buddy read this in April. So I will start this one in April, and I believe the plan is to read each one, provided that everybody wants to continue. I will for sure continue the series because it's on my shelf, and I always read a book before I unhaul it. So we will start this one in April. The series is very, very controversial, and it is Harry Potter. I have not read this one in many years, so I am going to reread it. And I think I bought each of these used for $1 over a decade ago. So they're kind of beat up. That's fine. We're just going to read them. I do like the Harry Potter universe. I do not agree with the author, but this is a part of my childhood that I did enjoy, so I want to go back and see if it still has that feeling of nostalgia. So we are going to read this one, and then it will be shoved in the back corner of my bookshelf where nobody can see it again. It's a series I do not own yet, so it is Shadow and Bone, and I want to read it because of the Netflix show, because I haven't watched it yet. And I have Six of Crows, but nobody told me that Shadow and Bone was first, because I don't research this kind of stuff before I buy stuff. I just see it in the store and I bought it, Six of Crows. So I don't have Shadow and Bone. It is something I am going to buy shortly here after Christmas, and then I will add it to my list. It is a series I'm planning on reading this year, and then we're going to follow it up with Six of Crows, and then subsequently I'll read King of Scars afterwards. And then I will watch the Netflix show and see how that's going to go. 21 is a book series that a teacher told me when I was 14 that I should read. And I bought the series when I was like 14 or 15, shortly after she told me. And it is City of Ember. I have not read it. It's been sitting on my shelf this entire time. So all I know is that these people live underground. And that's literally all I know. These people live underground, and that's an interesting enough premise to make me read this. And I am finally going to read this to see if I like it. I actually still do keep in touch with this teacher. She doesn't live that far away from me. So, and then I will finally tell her, hey, I finally read that book 10 years later. 22 is a series I've been saying I am going to start since June. And I've had the book longer than that, which is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Said I was going to read it this month for Havocathon and Protectathon, and guess what? I didn't. And then I decided I can fit another book in that prompt, and I can save this one and make it one of my 23 series for 23. So I will be reading it next year now. I am serious. I will read it next year. Mark my words, this is going to be one of the ones that I read, I swear. We have the Legend Trilogy. This is a series that was buried behind my SJM books, and I don't remember what the premise is, but I've owned it for several years, and we're finally going to get to it. I do know that I'm pretty sure this one is science fiction instead of fantasy, like most of the other books I've listed here today. So we're going to read this one so that I don't feel bad for it being buried behind a stack of books for several years. 2023 series I'm going to read here in 2023, and we will be having help from this one in 23, because she's going to pick which series I read, aren't you? It's a little game I play with her. I haven't shown it really on this channel, but I do it on a regular basis, and what I do is I take little treats, I set them on books I'm debating about starting, and whatever treat Eleanor eats first is the series that we're going to read, because she will eat all the treats, but that is the series we're going to read first. Eleanor's a good picker, aren't you? You're listening to the other dogs outside, aren't you? Yes. You're going to pick all the books for Mommy. You're such a good helper.